Hello, welcome back. I want to tell you about another testimony. You know, when we went to Belize in 1996, there was a group of us, probably about 14 or 15 people or so. And one night we were at a church, and it was a little small church. And there was maybe 10 people in the congregation, so there was more of us than there was of them. And at the end of the service, the pastor of the church said, "Hey, would your group like to come up front and pray for our congregation?" Well, I just sat in my seat because, quite frankly, there was more of us than them. And so the group ran to the front, and I just stayed seated and just was allowing them to minister and just gonna watch God do his awesome things. And the pastor comes up to me and he said, "Well, sir, would you mind praying for one of the elders of the church?" I said, "Well, certainly." And I went over there, and I didn't ask the lady her need. I just waited on the Lord. And as I stood in front of the lady, she stood back from me probably 3 or 4 feet. And I just began to wait on the Lord. And all of a sudden, what came out of my spirit was that what I was praying. Lord, I pray that you would free her from depression. Lord, I pray that you would free her from anxiety. And as I began to just pray as the Lord led me to pray, all of a sudden my eyes were shut. Tears are pouring out of my eyes. And I just began to reach out to touch her, just to agree with her that God would set her free. Lo and behold, as I was reaching to touch her, God's power hit her and she was thrown several feet. And as she was thrown, there was the altar table in front of the pulpit. The table went flying, all the plants on the table went flying, and the lady laid there, half on the platform, half on the ground, laughing. We ended up leaving the church and the lady was still laughing. She laughed for over 3 hours. We got a phone call the next day and she said she was completely set free from depression, from anxiety, from torment. You know, I had no idea me going to that trip, God was going to allow me the privilege to see something like that when I was only 21 years old. And I remember one thing happened. We walked out of that church. And as soon as we walked out of that church, it looked like a homeless man, a very, very weathered person came up to me and said some garbage about the enemy. And you know, I wasn't having any of that. You know, sometimes when God uses you in a supernatural way, sometimes the enemy will try to bring distraction and try to bring confusion, try to bring a little bit of maybe anxiety about doing in the future. And I remember the one of the words that came out of my mouth was, the blood of Jesus, now get away from me. And I just began to smile just by saying the blood of Jesus, now get away from me. That person just turned and walked away. You know, if you're watching today and God's starting to use you, or you feel the call to be used, it's time to just be led of the Spirit. Don't race to the front and try to be the first one to pray for everybody. Don't be the one needing to lay hands on everyone for every situation. See, when it's your time, the Lord he'll bring you up. The leader of the leader of the ministry or the leader of that event will come to you and say, you know, we feel the Lord has something special in your life. It doesn't matter if you're 12 years old watching this or you're 85. When it's your time, people will recognize it's your time. You'll know when it's your time. If you have to run to the front and let people know you're ready to pray for them, it's not your time. But when you'll yield to the Lord, and not to the desires of the flesh, God will use you in a special way. And it makes you rejoice when God uses you. I pray you're blessed in this testimony. Have a good day. You know, and you got to